You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Jesse Cruz, author of Live Your Dash, Discovering the 8 F's to Freedom. Jesse lives in upstate New York with his wife and children and is an Iraq War veteran. Welcome, Jesse. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Jesse, first off, thank you so much for your service to our country. We appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure.
So I see that you're a motivational speaker. What came first, your books or your speaking engagements?
So actually how it started is that I was invited to go speak into the Wayne County Jail, which is where I live. So I went to the county jail to do Sunday services. So I was doing Sunday services at the Wayne County Jail. I was doing that for a couple years. And then I took a break from that. I felt like my time with that was coming to a conclusion. I felt like, I was called to do something different. And so the speaking started first. The motivational speaking aspect of it, though, that hasn't started taking off until after the book. So the book was written, and then I've been fortunate enough to have a couple here and there over the past few months. I'm just getting started here, but my goal is that, I'm going to be speaking all over the country and the world, hopefully.
Great. I hope we can help.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah. So when you were speaking at the prison, is that the same topic that you used for your book?
Well, I had the opportunity to go through a variety of different trials and tragedies, and they brought, obviously, it's painful, but through that pain, it's brought me great insight that I never would have got otherwise. So any tragedy that I've experienced has helped me become the person that I am, and those trials and tragedies were necessary. Although I don't like them, and although they're painful and they hurt, I'm thankful for them. I'm not thankful for what happened, but I'm thankful for what I learned from it. And now when I was speaking there years ago, I was sharing my life, and when I speak, I like to share about my life. And so the message is to spread hope to hurting people, and spread hope to hurting people. You got to share your hurts. When one person can share their hurts, another person can heal. So I feel like the hurts that I've endured were designed not for me to wallow in my sorrow, but they were designed for me to go help someone going through something similar.
Sure, so they don't feel like they're alone.
Right, and when I was going through my crisis, I felt like I was the only person in the entire world that ever felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
What led to you being able to speak at the prison that eventually led to you writing the book?
So there are two really independent things. So going in and being invited in, my parents actually invited me. They have been doing jail and prison ministry all throughout New York State, and they had been going in there, and they invited me to come in with them. And so I just said, okay, they're inviting me for a reason, so I'll go try it. I have really no prior speaking engagements or had any prior speaking experience or anything like that. But I said, you know what? I feel like if they've invited me for a reason. And so I went in there and I shared my first message with the inmates and did my best to provide them with some encouragement and some spiritual background and all that. And from that, I started going in with them on a regular basis. I would go there like once a month, then it was twice a month, and then eventually they weren't going in no more, and I kept going once they stopped. So I was going in once or twice a month for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Great.
And so I was like, I was getting in the rhythm. I was developing the skill of speaking. And then I, like I said, I had other things going on with pursuing my education and my career. And I said, I got to put this on hold for a little while. And so I stopped the speaking completely and focused on those two aspects. And that led into what I think pushed me into a whole new direction is because me and my wife, we had been trying for a child for a while. And then we were blessed to get pregnant after, the doctor said, your opportunity to be pregnant is not going to happen due to some medical concerns, that there's really no way that she could carry another child. So that crushed us, that devastated like crazy because, more people who don't know me, they think, this family that we have is your typical traditional family, but we have a blended family. So we don't actually have any mutual children.
Okay.
but we raise our children together under one roof like a traditional family would.
Wonderful.
And that's a blessing. We get to spend a lot of time with our children, and which is great. And so this child, that when she became pregnant, this was the child that only child we had mutually, and we were just like, wow, what a great opportunity. So at that time in my life, I was focused, I got to shift my attention to, I got 3 children now I'm going to be taking care of instead of 2. So my whole vision was changed from that experience, being told that we could never have a child, to all of a sudden we're getting blessed with having one. And that just kind of led me on a different path.
Great.
When did it hit you that you wanted to become an author?
I've always enjoyed writing. I mean, it's been something I did when I was younger, which is interesting because when I was younger, growing up through school, I struggled quite a bit. I was actually diagnosed with a learning disability, and that learning disability actually makes it extremely difficult for me to process things. So writing and reading can be a challenge because I can't comprehend it. And ironically, I became an author. Which
Yeah.
is
That is
Well,
funny.
congratulations. Good for you.
Right. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with that learning disability. I had my tests read to me, had extra time. I was put in special classes, all that stuff. I had all kinds of supports and help because of, my brain doesn't process things as most people probably process things. And through that, having the birth of our daughter, the way that it all happened was so just unique situation because she was actually, her due date was in May and she was born premature. She was born in January.
Oh,
Wow, that's premature.
She
Wow.
was
my gosh.
extremely premature, to the point of basically what happens is that when a child is born, they need to be about 23 weeks old, I believe it is, to survive. And she was born at 23 weeks and 2 days. So she basically just made it.
Wow.
Basically 2 days past the cutoff point to be born alive. If she had been born, 3 days prior, she wouldn't have even been born alive. It just biologically, it doesn't work at this time with the technology they had at the time. And obviously that's a devastation and
Sure.
a trauma that we were going through on a daily basis. Cause we were in and out of the hospital. Well, I was, because we had other kids, and that I still had to be home and be dad while
Right.
trying to be there for my wife and my other child. So I was kind of wearing 2 hats at the same time, trying to be superhero dad, as my other girls look up to me as that, the fun dad. And that was really hard to do because that was the worst time of my life.
Sure.
Because I'd bring them to school, go to the hospital, and during the day, I'm crying my eyes out and I'm suffering and watching my daughter and my wife suffer together. We're all just suffering. Then I come home, see my kids, and try to be happy dad again. So that was weighing on me, that I was living like a double life.
When did the writing start? When did you start writing a book?
So as I was in the hospital, I'm watching her fight for her life, and I just felt like, man, this is, I said, once we get out of here, I really want to take the time to write this book, because I feel I've been blessed and gifted with the ability to write. And so I said, I'm going to start writing. Once we get out of this hospital, I'm going to start writing, and, it was January when she was born, and then February came along, and, her condition got better, and then it got worse, and it got better, and then it got worse. So I actually watched the nurses save my daughter's life multiple times.
Wow.
So I got to see my daughter flatline, you know what I mean? And then,
Wow,
Horrible.
that's scary.
and then, through that time, there came a day in February 16th, where she flatlined for the final time, and they didn't bring her back.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I'm so sorry.
And and I appreciate that.
Oh.
And through that, obviously we're devastated and crushed. And it's
Sure.
been, I'm coming up almost on 3 years. Her birthday's coming up here in a few weeks.
Oh.
And but through that, it devastated me, it crushed me, and it still does. So I still got
Sure.
some rough days, and I still got some tough days. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna write now. I got a notebook. It was completely empty, and every morning I got up around 5 a.m. and I would write for about an hour straight. And that's what I did until I filled the whole notebook up. The writing was almost like my way to visit her. It was like my therapy. It was like my coping strategy. It was like, I got to use this writing because I feel like this is my way. I can go visit her. I feel like I can go spend time with her. Is like I'm writing almost like a love letter to her in a way.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't really directly to her, but it was just therapeutic for me. I felt more connected and close to her. and the writing helped me kind of get my life on track because it was in a downward spiral from the tragedy I just went through.
What was the next step after you filled up that notebook?
As I was going through it, I was like, well, I'm starting to see a theme here. This is kind of what I want to write about. There's 8 areas I want to write about. And these 8 areas of my life are what are getting me through this tragedy. Not only in my life, I think in every human being's life, if they focus on these 8 areas, then they can discover their purpose. They can find the significance and the meaning of life that we all long for to have in those 8 areas I was writing about every day. And I organized it and I structured it, hand wrote it in a notebook. And then I said, I'm going to leave it alone now. So I left it alone for like 2 months. And then I came back to it to kind of be a little bit more objective because I was writing all based on feeling. So now I had to throw logic, to kind of balance the book out. And then I took it and I typed it all up.
Wow.
So I went from handwriting it and then I typed up every word that I hand wrote. Then I did that and then I took like another month off. I came back and now I started kind of almost like self-editing. I'd go through, see what made sense, what didn't make sense, organize it. And then I just started the process. I started adding words, adding sentences, and removing things that didn't make sense. And then I structured and organized it and made it flow all together. And that's kind of how the writing process began.
Wow. That is very impressive that you did all that. Actually hand wrote the book and then went back and typed it.
You know what is crazy is when you do something you love, it never feels like work. And I was in love with what I was doing, and it was just an honor and a privilege to do it.
So you said that you edited it. Did you share it with other people to look at it for editing purposes?
Absolutely. So what I did is that, and I did this without realizing I did it at the time, because I learned about this quote I heard later on, and the quote was basically, when you're going to write a book, you want to write like nobody's ever going to see it, and you want to edit like everybody's going to see it.
That's good. That's good.
And I was like, I did that without even realizing, because when I was writing on that, I was writing some crazy things down. I'm like, if people read this, they're going to think I'm insane. But you know what? I'm going to write it anyways, because that's how I'm feeling right now. So I did that, and then I edited it, and I obviously took some things out. So I probably edited it myself probably about 14 or 15 times. And then from there, I had my wife. She went through. She just destroyed it because it was a mess. You know what I mean? My wife she's much smarter than I am, so I'm like, I'm just going to go with what she says because I don't really know what I'm doing. I never wrote a book, but here I'm trying to do it. So she came through with a red pen and just crossed off basically about everything. And then I had a friend read it, and then from there I went to go try to get a publisher.
And what was that journey like?
I was like, you know what? I can go a couple of different routes. I can do self-publishing or I can do traditional publishing. And I went back and forth and debating on which one I wanted to do. And for me, just at the time, I felt traditional publishing was the way to go. So obviously I had to, seek out publishers and what their requirements were and if they're accepting manuscripts and all that. So I looked some up. First company I sent it to rejected me. And I took that as like a great compliment because I knew that I had a great story, not saying that arrogantly, but I just knew that it was going to be great. It just wasn't great for that company.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I didn't take it personally at all. And plus, I know famous authors who've been rejected way more than one time. You know what I mean? 20, 30, 40, 50 to 100 times and rejected. So I'm like, I must be on the right path.
I'm doing something right.
No, but
some of the greatest writers in the world have been rejected. So I'm on the right path.
Right. But that's great advice that people need to hear, that it's okay to be rejected. Keep pushing on. And just like you said, it's not right for that particular publishing company at that point, but there's someone else out there. Keep going. So
absolutely. So, I think a lot of that with rejection, not just with books, but with things in life, is when you get rejected for something, what that's supposed to do is either that's gonna cause you to say, okay, I give up, I quit. Or if you want it really bad enough, you're going to keep striving for it. You know what I mean? And you got to know if this is what you're called to do, then it will happen. If you're not called to do it, then it just wasn't meant for you to do. But I knew this was meant for me. I knew that. So I was like, okay, this rejection is not going to stop me because I know I've been called to be an author. And then from there, I actually was I was searching up online on Facebook. I joined all kinds of Facebook groups, authors, readers, writers, and publishers, and I'm just connecting with a lot of people. And I saw a comment online about this guy who highly recommended this individual. I looked her up. I messaged her. I asked her about her company. I did some research about what she does, and I looked at the website. And I said, okay, let me reach out to her, and I did. And we had a conversation. She told me what the requirements were. told me a little bit about the company. We talked on the phone for a few times. And so I said, I'm going to send her the manuscript. And she accepted it.
Wow. That is fantastic.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been
felt
unbelievable.
From the time I hand wrote, it was a process. I started writing it March 1st, 2017. And then it didn't get published, completely until in May of 2019. Mm-hmm. So you're talking over 2 years of what I had to go through to process all this. So, it's not an overnight thing. You know what I mean? If you want to develop any great product, any great decision in life, a great relationship, it's going to take work and time and commitment.
Right. So what was the name of the publishing company, and did they help you with the editing and the book cover?
When I was talking with them, I said, "Oh, this is what I want." So they did some minor editing. But I said, you know what? I was kind of looking for some more on top of the editing that they did, because I was just kind of like OCD about it, I guess you could say. And I was like, I wanted more. So they went through and they did some formatting. They changed a couple things, and I said, well, I want to get some more editing done. So what I did is that I also hired an editor as well. He went through the process, and she tore my thing to shreds.
Wow.
I thought it was bad when my wife went through it. This lady, she took it to a whole nother level. But I didn't take it personally, though, because if I'm trying to deliver a quality product, or if I want to reach as many people as possible, it's got to be the best it can be. It can't be average. Sure. I don't think anyone designed or called to be average.
Right.
I think we're called to be great. So we got to let other people tell us where it's not great and accept it as an act of love, not hate. They're trying to help us.
Right. Exactly.
Excellent message. Well, speaking of messages, Jesse, do you have any advice for somebody who's writing a book and they haven't published it yet?
I believe every single person on earth should write a book, because every person has a story. And for the people out there who are writing a story and they're trying to get it published, they really need to understand that nobody on planet Earth, nobody in human history can do what you can do. Nobody can write the same exact story that you write, because you're a unique individual that has different experiences, different upbringing, different background, and different intellect and different opportunities. So every person who writes a book should understand that there's no other book like it, not in existence.
Excellent.
Because no one can do it exactly the same way. They can do something similar. They can do something, that's not too far off topic. But it is never exactly the way that author writes it, because nobody is that author. So your book that you're writing, you need to do it because no one can do it the exact way that you do it. Every person has something valuable to offer that nobody else can bring.
We're all unique. Scribophile is the proud sponsor of the Author Inside You podcast.
Looking for ways to improve your writing? Scribophile is the place for you. They're famous for giving out detailed and helpful critiques. The critiques are so much more than just giving each other a pat on the back. You'll actually receive information that will help you improve your writing. As part of their community, you'll be writing critiques for others also. Their members tell them again and again that learning how to write great critiques dramatically improve their own writing.
At Scribophile, you can learn from the vast collection of free writing resources. Besides the insightful critiques you'll get in the writing workshop, Scribophile has a huge amount of free resources in the professional writing blog and writing academy. Their writing forums are busy with thousands of writers from all over the world talking shop.
Scribophile is also a great place to make lifelong friends in the busy community of writers. Although writing is a solitary act, that doesn't mean you have to be lonely. Lucky for you, there are thousands of writers on Scribophile every day. And they're really a friendly bunch.
You've never seen a writing group like this one at scribophile.com.
What about promoting your book?
To me, if you're an author, writing is the easy part. The writing for me, that was the easy. That was a breeze for me. There's no problem. The promoting part paralyzed me with fear. Because I'm not the kind of person that likes to go out and get on social media and say, look at this thing that I've done. So that's just not who I am. But I had to, when you're called into something great, you got to grow into that greatness. You know what I mean? And so I felt like my talent was moving at a fast pace, faster than my personality and maturity was ready for. Okay. So I had to take some time for my maturity and my passion to catch up to my talent. And so what I knew, as far as if I have a message that I want to get out to people, then I have to get on social media and I have to tell people about it, or people aren't going to know. So I had social media for years, but I never posted. Now I was posting multiple times a week. It was frightening for me.
Yeah.
To date, every book that I've sold to someone who has a Facebook account, I don't really use it for people who don't have Facebook, but for anyone who has a Facebook account, every book that I've ever sold, I've taken a picture of their book and tagged their name. Let's say Bob, Joe, and Tom all buy a book from me. I'm going to take a picture of those 3 books, and I'm going to say, here, thank you, Bob, Joe, and Tom, for buying these 3 books of Live Your Dash. Thank you for your support. And I tag all their names, and I take a picture of all 3 books. And there were some pictures where I was, I had like one time I had like 25 books in one picture. And I tagged all 25 people and thanked all 25 of them.
That's wonderful. What a great,
very nice idea.
Yeah,
because I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the people. And I wanted to thank every single person who's bought a book has been thanked online if they have a Facebook. Every last one of them, they've all been thanked. I've used their name. And for some of the people who I know, I've been able to take. Now what I do is I try to take pictures with those people. If they're local and they're nearby.
Oh, that's fun.
I'll get a picture with the person who's buying my book, and I point to them and say, "Look, thank you. Thank you for the support." So I like to try to uplift the people who are supporting me, because it's all about the people. Because without them, the book is not going to do nothing.
Right. That's true.
Without my readers, it's nothing.
And then I also saw that you had Black Friday specials, which I think is a great marketing ploy also.
Yeah, so I saw somebody else that I knew who's an author. They were doing Black Friday sales for their book. And I was like, you know what? I love the idea. I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
I did it immediately. Like, I saw them do it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I did it immediately. I did my own version of it, obviously. I filled my books on there, 3 books for this amount, 2 books for this amount, 1 book for this amount. Obviously, all the prices, highly discounted. And that was a huge success, and it was great. And I loved it. I'm always trying to look for new creative ways to get the message out, whatever that may take. Excellent.
So the Black Friday sale idea definitely increased sales.
Oh, yeah. It was very successful. It was great. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was, the people enjoyed it because, they're getting a good Christmas gift for family and friends, and they're getting it at a fraction of the cost of what I was selling it prior, because, it was a Black Friday deal.
Sure.
So it was a win-win for everybody.
Great. So I understand that you're available for speaking engagements. Can you tell us how people can get in touch with you?
So, the best way to get in contact with me for a speaking engagement could be email. That's probably the best way to go. My email address is authorjessecruz@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram at authorjessecruz on Instagram. Also on Facebook, my name Jesse Cruz. My business page, Jesse A. Cruz on Facebook. Any of those ways work. And I'm trying to get more involved in the speaking engagements. I'm trying to get the message out. So any opportunity I have to speak, I'm looking forward to.
Great.
And I just appreciate, anyone who would be willing to listen, because I just believe in the message so much.
And we'll have all your contact information in our show notes, Jesse.
Awesome.
And how should our audience purchase your book?
So I'm a relational kind of person, because I like to, build that relationship with my readers, my customers, and anyone who's involved. So I always prefer people order from me, but obviously that's not everybody else's preference. Because for people who order from me directly, I can write them a personalized message, which I'm all about that. I like to. I don't write the same message in everyone's book. I have the same thing. I'll include my title and the signature on every book, but the message I give to that person is individualized for every single person. So I like to make it unique for every person that wants the book. So for people who order from me directly, we'll be able to get that personalized copy if that's what they want. If not, which is fine with me, people can order it right on Amazon. It's on Amazon.com. Or they can go on BarnesandNoble.com, or they can go through my publisher, which is PennantPublications.com. So those are probably those are your best ways to get a hold of the book.
Excellent. Great. We'll have that information in the show notes also.
Awesome.
Well, Jesse Cruz, author of Live Your Dash, Discovering the 8 F's to Freedom, thank you very much for being a guest today on the Author Inside You podcast.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are great today.
Jesse makes a great point. We all have a story to share. And maybe some of us want to keep it quiet, and maybe some of us want to put it out to the world. If you know of someone who wants to share their story with others, please tell them about the Author Inside You podcast.
And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast. with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.